hi everybody. My name is Shirley Baker, and I'm taking a communication class right now. So that's what, and that's, as you know, you may know or may not know, I'm from Mexico, and so that's why I decided to make this topic talking about culture and how the communication help shape, who we are and as a culture. For that, I will explain you the meaning of culture, which is a group of people that live within a geographic territory that share values and share points of view that help shape who you are, who everybody are, and that help ways of interpreting experience that are shared by a group of people. Yes, that is culture. Okay, I should just put that in paper. Okay, within a culture, there are social communities. Social communities are smaller groups that live within dominant cultures that help, that the same way, they share values, they share understandings, and, kind of like in between those, groups themselves. And these values are distinct from the dominant culture, so. And then we have a standpoint, which is, the personal point of view of like anybody else has about a topic, a specific topic, that can influence in how understand themselves and others in society. Okay. And then social communities. We have 3 examples of social communities, and I want to focus on gender, which is the most common, right? We have, since little girls, like to play more games like house and school. Is usually like there's more talk in that. There are less rules to follow. There's not like a set clear, guidelines of how to play. There's more sensible, pretty much. There's few players, and whether boy games are usually more like competitive, more usually sports, usually like basketball, soccer, where there's more like a set clear of rules. There's rules for that, and there's usually more players, less talk, aggressiveness, and this doesn't usually just stay when you're little. When, women tend to be more talkative, more sensible, whether men tend to be more competitive and aggressive, And another example is racial ethnic groups as well. Like African Americans, that's an example from the book. They generally communicate more assertively than European Americans, where they're a little more less assertive. And we have also socioeconomic groups, upper level, middle class. That's another different community. All right, so now we have the book talks about Geert Hofstede, which he was an anthropologist, a psychologist who worked for a big company, IBM, who employs over 100,000 people. He not only worked in one facility, he worked in different countries, different cultures, and after that he decided to study that and bring different dimensions. He kind of like separate everything by dimensions and culture. So the first one I will talk about is individualism and collectivism, which he noticed that some countries, some culture tend to work more as a group. So we talk about that as collectivism, like the face of the group is the group itself, like the project is the group itself. Places like Pakistan and China, whether individualism cultures, they work as an individual, like the United States was an example as well. The face of the project is an individual itself. Now we have uncertainty avoidance is the extent to which people want to avoid ambiguity. Talk about an example, South Korea. They prefer everything spelled out. They don't like misunderstandings, everything's like straightforward. Whether like places like Hong Kong, they are open to any surprises. They have less expectations. Any questions so far? All right, the next dimension we talk about is power distance. This is the gap, the distance between high power and low power, hierarchy between them. That places with with a bigger gap tend to respect more the person that has more power, if that makes any sense. The places like India and China, they tend to respect the powerful. Whether places with a lower gap in between there, like places like Norway, they tend to think that the person that has high power, that they have earned it. An example again that I saw in the book, and an example that I've seen myself by going to college, is that like students, sometimes you see them like eating in class, or like they talk back to the teacher, like, you know, there's no respect, there's no like a big gap in between high power and low power. Okay, the next one is masculinity and femininity. Some countries, they tend to be more aggressive, which tends to be like masculinity. Places like Germany and Japan, and femininity more like they're more caring, more sensible, and places like Norway. Good. And the last dimension is long-term versus short-term orientation. It's the extent which members of a culture think about long-term and short-term, like long-term history and short-term the present. Long-term will be like they tend to like think more of what will happen if, like more conservative, more they value more the ancestors, they respect that, and short-term will be, you know, they live for the moment, live for the present. There's not really a respect for the elder. Places like Germany talks about that as well. Okay, now we have the relationship between culture and communication. Okay, so we are born knowing how to react against other people. You know, like we aren't born like knowing that I have to respect my elder, or I have to like look at you in the eyes, you know, when I talk to you. We learn this by communicating with others, and communication reflects cultural values. So people from different cultures use communication in different ways. Like, for example, places in like in Asian countries, they have a word for everything. They have a word for like mother-in-law. They have a word for my uncle's brother. There's a specific word for that. So they kind of like have more tendency to do that, you know, which is good, because that means that you're giving a like a value to that. So which is good. And then so that's an example. So guidelines for adapting communication to diverse cultures and social communities. This just helps you assimilate that there's other cultures as well, and you know the steps on how to do that, how to like help to blend together social communities into bigger culture. And the first one is learning about other people, engage in person-centered communication, just by talking to other people, kind of like, you know, learning about other people's culture and like being open-minded on other people's culture and their understandings, respect others' feelings and ideas, and like never assume what other people is feeling, what other people is like thinking. And we have resist ethnocentric bias, ethnocentric, which means ethnos is ethnicity, centros is center. So never put like your culture as like the center of the universe, you know. There is, well, there was an example in the book that Matt Damon said, you know, like actually he said something about like the problems in this country will be fixed if people had thicker passports. That means like, you know, like traveling to other places, getting to know other cultures, getting to know like how people live somewhere else helps you understand your own culture as well, and how, you know, how the world works pretty much. So which is good as well, and being open-minded about that, and recognizing that adapting to cultural diversity is a process. It's not something that happens from one day to another. By tolerance, assimilation, understanding other cultures, respect, and participation. So, the end. All right.
Very good.
What we got?
Appreciate you.
What's it, gotta be less than 5 minutes?
10 minutes, actually.
Oh,
Eh,